Into the Radius, one of the most respected and renowned survival VR games, is getting a sequel, Into the Radius 2. It's currently playable on Steam, but it's in early access for $40. Is the game worth playing in its current state? That's what I'm here to talk about. Hi, I'm a random nerd, and here's my honest review of Into the Radius 2. I'm sure the majority of you know what Into the Radius is, but for those who don't know, Into the Radius is an open-world, apocalyptic survival VR game developed by CM Games. The gameplay consists of the player traversing the barren wasteland of the Pechorsk zone? I don't know, man, sounds weird. Also known as the Radius. You will spend time exploring the various structures, avoiding or neutralizing the various anomalies and entities that inhabit it, collecting artifacts and other valuable resources, and completing tasks to uncover the mystery behind the Radius and eventually get to the center of it. Into the Radius 2 also takes place in the Pet Corgi zone, but it takes place in a different area than the first game, with a much different landscape and different anomalies. The gameplay is still the same, given that it's a sequel to the first game, but due to the game being in early access, there are a couple of differences in the game's current state when compared to the first game. But what exactly is different? Well, for starters, a lot of the things from the first game, such as hunger, weapon cleaning, and difficulty settings, which is a pretty big one, are still yet to be fully implemented into this game due to the game's early access state. What is in the game, however, is a completely new environment for you to explore, an interesting and fun gameplay loop that encourages you to return to areas you've already explored, a bunch of probably safe things for you to collect, and a handful of bullet-based weaponry for you to unload with precise precision into any anomaly that would dare ruffle your jimmies. Okay, who the hell wrote this? Some things are currently in the game, but aren't finished, with the tide being one of them. In the original game, the tide is a mechanic that acted as a massive reset of the Radius, wiping the slate clean if you will. It reset all the loot and the enemies in the Radius, with each tide spawning more enemies. And if you're not in your home base or a safe house when the tide rolled in, it would teleport you to a random location in the Radius. Your only warning would be a small alarm on your map. This is mostly the case in the sequel, but instead of teleporting you to a random location, it just immediately kills you when the timer hits 0, which is definitely a more intense reason to not be out and about when the tide hits. What's worse, being whisked away to an unfamiliar location surrounded by creatures you don't know, or I think we have a clear answer here. But obviously this is a much more general covering of what's changed so far, so let's discuss more of it in the... As stated earlier, the gameplay loop itself is very fun, and encourages you to return to places you've already explored. How does it do that? Well, not only are these places full of loot, you're also given missions to complete by a United Nations Pierogi Special Committee, or UNSC for short. What is this organization? I don't know, but according to this person in the ITR Discord, they saw the Radius as a lost cause in the first game, but now they see it as a valuable asset in the second game. Classic company greed, am I right? Hey nerd, play the laugh track. These missions can be anything from going to certain locations, collecting valuable artifacts, or recovering lost scanning equipment. Lazy assholes. Why is it my job to recover your shit? Sound boring? Well, it would be if it weren't for all those pesky anomalies and entities trying to kill you. They're mostly similar to the first game, but have some distinct changes. For the entities, you have mimics, which will shoot you with pistols, shotguns, and holy fucking shit, why did he have a minigun? And spawn, which are these weird gloopy things that are just full of random metal crap like scissors.
I am running with scissors!
Alone, these enemies aren't too big of a hassle to deal with, but when there are a bunch of them all grouped up, or there's a swarm of those tiny goopy assholes, they can be kind of a problem. The game in its current state is missing a lot of enemies from the old game, like fragments, phantoms, seekers, and sliders, but they're supposedly coming in the future along with other entities. Anomalies, though, have gotten some pretty distinct adjustments. There are currently only 3 anomalies in the sequel, all with different properties. There's the burster anomaly, the reflector anomaly, and the shock anomaly. The burster anomaly will be this weird chair thing surrounded by these wooden stakes, which will suck, and hurting whatever is nearby. The reflector anomaly pushes things away from it while dealing damage, which doesn't sound too bad until you realize multiple of them can be next to each other and can push you into some very dangerous situations. And the shock anomaly will create a massive shockwave if anything gets near it. These anomalies can either be seen on their own, in clusters, moving around, or even a combination of these, which is utterly terrifying. However, you do have a tool that can help deal with these pesky anomalies. Returning from the first game, we have probes. While in the first game, they were mainly used for detecting anomalies and trying to figure out where they were. In the sequel, they do that, but also have an additional purpose. They can be used to trigger the anomalies, which helps you avoid them, or in some instances, let you get past them while they're on cooldown. Take this burster anomaly for example. I need to get past it. There are a bunch of other anomalies around it. What am I going to do about that? Throw a probe, walk through, profit. This is a very nice upgrade to probes in the first game, and I can imagine they'll be used similarly for more anomaly types once they're added. What was I talking about beforehand? Oh, that's right, the missions! After gathering what you need to complete a mission, you return to your base to deliver what you collected, or confirm the mission's completion. You are then rewarded with credits and the occasional supplies. These credits can be spent in the shop for more supplies, which include bigger backpacks, vests with more slots for magazines and guns, or a nice selection of well-kept firearms you can use to dispatch any enemy that would dare to even step within 5 meters of you. Okay, that is much better. Why wasn't that in the script earlier? As this video's released, the shooting range has not been added quite yet, but from the guns I've tested, they feel a lot better than the ones in the first game. Granted, I haven't tested a lot of them, given that I spent most of my money on healing supplies, but I digress. Side note, while editing this video, I found out that these weird radius balls you can collect in each area will also give you more credits. I didn't know this, which is probably why I was poor in the first playthrough. Overall, the game definitely has an early access feel, and it feels a bit rougher than the first game is currently, but it does feel better than the early access version of the original game. While the original game definitely had that indie dev feel in the early stages of the game's life, the sequel definitely feels more on the level of an early access AA VR game. But I feel like I'm forgetting to cover something. Something seems missing almost, but I can't quite put my finger on it. Hey, let me check the patch notes. Yeah, that looks, wait. Oh my god! Into the Radius getting co-op was something I did not expect to happen. Is it a good co-op mode? Well, it works and it's functional, but it has a lot of bugs and some issues with crashing. Let me put it this way. If you're hosting the co-op game, you'll have no issues. If you're the person joining the co-op game, you'll have some pretty big issues with bugged items, crashing when you move out of areas with certain weapons, basically a lot of stuff that just needs to be ironed out before the full launch next year. Now even with these bugs, co-op is still a lot of fun, and I'd argue some of these bugs even add to the experience of co-op.
Yeah, so your mouth is actually like on your forehead right now. Yeah, see?
You're definitely more incentivized to go out and do more missions as a duo, as the money you earn is shared between the both of you. But the amount of money you actually earn is adjusted to account for this, and so are the number of enemies and resources. While co-op is a very cool idea for Into the Radius, and it does work, I do think this mode comes at the sacrifice of what made the original ITR so impactful. That being, isolation. In the original game, and the solo mode of this game, you are completely alone. Now sure, you have the UNPSC helping you, but you don't actually see another physical person for the entirety of the game. All the other explorers that came before you are either dead or missing, and you don't see any of them in the Radius. You think you see people in the Radius, but they're actually echoes of the people that once inhabited this place, before the event that caused it to become a barren wasteland. The only interaction you have is with the echo of Katya, which is the only character you actually hear talk to you throughout the game. And even then, you question if she's real or not. It makes the abandoned buildings feel more eerie, the voices of the mimics feel more creepy and haunting, and the overall experience of the game is just that much more immersive. You're alone. No one is there to help you. But losing this identity of what makes solo mode so impactful isn't necessarily a bad thing. The feeling of isolation may not be as impactful as it would be in the solo mode, but it's not gone. It's still there, just to a lesser degree. You have a companion you can lean on when things get rough, but only your companion. It changes the dynamic of the game, and whether or not that's a good thing is really up for you to decide. But I personally don't think it's a bad thing. If this game were co-op only, then yes, I would agree that this is not a good change. But the solo mode is still heavily emphasized as the main mode for this game. If fully fleshed out and all the bugs are fully ironed out, then I can see it becoming a worthwhile experience for this game. Now going over what I've said, let's pinpoint what I think about this game. It's a very solid early access game, but therein the statement lies an issue. If you're coming in expecting a full gameplay experience from start to finish, you will not get that. This game will be receiving constant and concurrent updates up until the full release of the game, where eventually everything will be implemented and you can play through the full game. But as of now, you can't. And you should probably expect your save file in this game to not transfer over to future versions of the game, at least until the full launch. This game really needs a lot of time to work out its issues, especially the co-op mode, before it's ready for launch. Plus, there's that modern stigma of early access games being, cash grabs, buggy beyond recognition, or just not enjoyable experience due to other factors. Ugh, sorry. That being said, CM games have proven that they can use early access to their advantage with this game because they did this exact thing with the original ITR. They launched the game in a bare bones state for early access and then used community feedback to build on it to what it is today. The best open world survival VR game to date. The second game may not be perfect now, but I have full faith that CM games will make this as perfect of a game as they possibly can. If you want to wait for the game to be fully finished before buying it, then I definitely recommend you wait until the full release in 2025. But if you don't mind the game not being fully finished, or just want to experience what the sequel has to offer, then I will say, yes, Into the Radius 2 is worth playing in its current state. And I am super excited to see where this game goes in the future, and the crazy stuff they add. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking the video and subscribing. I make videos like this whenever they're ready, and I live stream VR related content on Tuesdays right here on YouTube and Twitch. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you all next time. Have a good night, y'all.